Hello, the game has started. It's my opponent to go first. I have the J, which is a good scoring tile. I don't have a bingo-y rack. I've got Jilt on my rack. My opponent changes, so that's playable. I'm wondering if I have a play which gets my J doubled. And I don't think I do. Jilt for 22. Well, that looks promising. There could be a 7-letter bingo here. And I suspect there are a number of 8s. I'm wondering about Daltonia. Not sure about that. That I remains available. The J is not a useful floater. Now, what about tack nodal? Not sure about that. I think tack node is good, and ack nodal. So, is there a 7 here? Well, I can't see it. I think the I is the most likely looking floater. Dilation, I don't have the tiles for. Well, I'm not seeing the bingo if there is one there. Now, what goes on the end of tick? Possibly an A, but I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do is stick my A underneath the J. So I can play load. 19 points. It leaves a decent rack leave. The L doesn't go particularly well with the N or the T. However, I am sticking an O immediately above a triple word square. So what about playing just add? I don't want to play lad because then I'm keeping too many vowels. Yeah, I think this keeps the board quite tight. I draw the Z. I have waltz. Wad is good, so I have waltz in column 6. Jaw is also good, so I could have a play using the W in row J. It would be good to get rid of the W and the Z. Waz is good. I know tick takes an E and a K and an S and an H. I'm just not sure about it taking an A. I don't think it does. Now, I've gotten myself into trouble. If I'd played load, on the one hand my opponent would have scored well off it, but on the other hand the board would have been more open. Mai's a very blocky move. Nothing goes in front of it. Nothing goes in front of J. So I could play Kaz for not many points. What about Exotic? It does keep a pretty awful rack lead, but the score of 37 points is a lot better than anything else I've seen. Well, I do have one vowel. And there's the floating A of Exotic. Exotic takes nothing after it, so all of the tick hooks now disappear. J takes only an S, so K, row K is only really good for words ending vowel S, or including vowel S. Not much use when I've only got one vowel. I'll be looking to play off a number of consonants here if I can. I could play, well, not surprisingly, my opponent has gone in that area. Now, I've got the ing ending, so I can play waging, which keeps FLT. Oof is good. Just checking to see if I've got anything which goes after ZO, just the L, but then I can't place anything either side of that. So fling is the best I can do, but that stops one square short of a double word square, so that's not so good. Waging only 11 points. But I don't think there's much on offer with this rack. Well, more balanced. And I've got the F for score. Ooh, 38 points for my opponent. I'm now behind. My F can go above IN, so I could play Phil, keeping Toll. Swaging is good for future reference. Yeah, I quite like Phil. It doesn't give too much away for my opponent. He can play in column 15, but that's about it. And in any event, I'm just struggling to see anything better. However, oof is good. So do I have a 6-letter play down here? Well, I don't think I do. Well, except I do. I have Flotal for 26 points. And Phil was 24. Well, this provides numerous opportunities. I think I prefer Phil. Now, my P can go after oo, so I'm wondering if plotty is good, ending IE. I'm tempted to try it. That stays available. Parados. I think that's good, but I'll check it. Yeah, it is. Now, has my opponent provided anything which I'm more sure of than plotty? So I've got the floating P to consider. Can't see anything through that. There's the A. Can't see anything there. Well, the R looks promising. And that's it. So I'm thinking about trying this. It'll be immensely annoying if it comes off. I guess if this is good, it's possible that plottier would be good. So should I try this? I think I will. If it stays on, I've drawn the blank, which is good. And if it comes off, I'm in poor shape. Just waiting to see if this is going to be challenged. An agonizing wait. Yes, it's challenged, but it's good and it stays on. Fantastic. I can now turn my attention to my rack. It looks grim with the U's, but I have union on my rack. Is ununion good? Not sure. So I'm behind, but I have the blank, so I feel good, and the board is reasonably open. Is there a bingo here? And I think if there is, it's likely to begin UN or endo US. Okay, well, I'm not seeing a bingo here, but there could be one. Now the floaters are 13 minutes on my clock. Floating P, A, R. Okay, so I can't see anything. How to sort this rack out? It would be good to play off a U and an N for sure. But But how can I do that? And another vowel, so maybe something like uni. Do I have anything down from the P? No, anything down onto the L? No, well, what a tricky rack. I could play Ulu, but that's keeping duplicate N. 12 minutes on my clock. There must be something here. Bunyan. Well, that doesn't reach the double word square, so it scores almost nothing. Just nowhere for uni. What about just playing Utu? I think that has some merit. 6 points. But if I'm going down that route, why not change and get rid of the 2 U's, one of the N's, and an O? Unpin is good. I just don't want to miss a 20 to 30 point play. 11 minutes on my clock. Lots of nice floaters in Parados, Plotty and Lube. I've got the blank. Time to change, I think. And I think that has paid off. I think that Blankia... Actually, I think Blankia is not good. So, I am totally confident there are bingos here. I just can't immediately see any, but I haven't been looking for long. Ran Pike is good as a 7. Now, what about this P? Ah, do I have Ran Pikes? Fabulous. Oh, wow. This is pretty good. Yes, I do. 149. Fantastic. And a pretty horrible rack, but that doesn't matter. I've just had a 9 timer for 149 points, and I'm 120 points in the lead. I draw back one of the U's. And I've got 5 vowels, which isn't great. I do have a scoring tile in the F. I think Feud is good. F-E-U-E-D. That plays in column 2. And I can't see it playing anywhere else. Opponent challenges. He loses 5 points. And I'm in a reasonable position. 120 point lead isn't unassailable. And there are a lot of tiles to come, and it's a fairly open board. 24 for my opponent. So the feud spot is available down here. It doesn't score very much. It does take out a 7-letter bingo lane, which is reasonably handy. And it turns over a lot of tiles, which is good. Still 2 U's to come, so it is helpful to get rid of the F. To get rid of the U, rather. 9 minutes on my clock. This just doesn't feel fabulous. Anyway, another advantage is that I'm ahead, so this spot A1 for non-bingo plays in column 1 is more useful to me than my opponent. If my opponent uses it, they're not going to get a bingo-y score, or unlikely to, and they'll be turning over a lot of tiles, which is good. Oh dear, let me just play that in the right spot. That's better. 16 points. Yeah. And, well, this is good. I don't have a bingo here, but I've got scoring tiles in the H and the M, and I've got vowels, which is going to make it easier for me to play them. I've got theme at A1 for about 30 or 40 points. That stays available. And this is what I meant about this spot being more valuable for me, because I can now score well and turn over a lot of tiles. Can I do better than theme? Theme keeps 2 O's. Now, I do have the homo and homeo prefix. Just wondering if there are any bingos. Floating K, floating S, P. Okay, and I don't think vowels are very helpful. I can't see a way of playing off an O in this spot at A1 down. But there's only 1 O to come, so not a disaster. And there's a ton of E's to come. Theme 44. And again, this is good in the sense that I've got a scoring tile and I've got vowels to go with it, so I should be able to keep the scoring going, which is what I want to do. So I can play woo or what underneath parados for 30 points, and that's exactly the sort of play I'm looking for. It makes it very hard for my opponent to come back if I'm hammering away with 30 and 40 points. Now my opponent has come back with a bingo, hurlers and plotties. Yeah, I think I will challenge it just in case. It's fine. So I'm now only 40 points ahead. Maybe I should have been a little more thoughtful before challenging that, especially with the Q and the U to come. So I'm not home and dry. So I could play wort. What about a play underneath hurlers? Well, the W would have to be out here. Towie doesn't work, so I've got wort, which gets rid of the duplicates and scores well and denies my opponent that spot. Great, I don't draw the Q, although with the Q and the U out there, my opponent could have a 50-point play. I've got Turnian and Intoner. Do I have Tontiner in row A? Yes, I do. That stays available. Fantastic. Tontiner. Just wondering if it has an anagram. But even if it does, it's going to score the same. So I don't need to consider that. And I don't think there are any better lanes to consider. Not a great pickup, except what's good about it is that I've drawn the U, so my opponent doesn't have the U. They can play chi up here, but they can't play it both ways. Despite having an A, they don't have a T for cat. Through an O, I would have Voduns. No O's available. So I'm 100 points ahead, which is good. My opponent probably can't go out in 1. So I need to plan an out in 2. I've got 6 minutes. So I'm looking at my V. That's going to be the more problematic tile. So where can I play my V? Well, a number of places, Van and Rev, but I'm looking to go out in 2. So I'd like to play off more than one tile. My U can go after the Q, but I don't have an A. 6 minutes on my clock. So I could play div for face value. Surely there's something better than that. Themed and dev. That's quite nice. Because, okay, it scores 19 points, that's fine. And UN, it's good because UNS is going to be pretty flexible. I've got suns, I've got uns and devs. The only bad thing about playing dev is that it provides an easy spot for my opponent to score through. But I don't think I will. Well, so what about placing an S after it? That makes it harder for my opponent to score well. UN certainly is going to play in many places. I've got bun, and I've got un and an, so I think I'll go with devs. Very hard to find the optimal plays at that stage of the game. I certainly find it hard. It's a different skill to the skill during the rest of the game, because you are able to plan completely based on what your opponent's got. He, not good. So, UN, where can I maximise my score? 7 points here. UN, 10 points. I don't want to spend too long on this, because it would annoy my opponent probably. So I think I'll just go with this. Just wait for my opponent to formally end the game, which he does. And the final score, 390 to my opponent, 541 to me. A winning margin of 151 points, so a massive, massive win. Let's see what I missed. It was my opponent to go fast. They changed. This was my rack. I played Jilt. That looks fine. My opponent's rack, not very nice. Played Tick. And now, great, Daltonian not good. In fact, no bingos here at all. I don't think my play of odd was optimal, because the 5 tiles it kept weren't that bingo-y, and I got into a pretty tight situation as a result of playing it. But not immediately clear what's better. Possibly Allod. Yeah. Well, except Allod then provides an easy 5-letter lane here, so this was, in general, just a tricky rack to deal with. I don't think Add was a disaster. My opponent plays mine. That was a good play by them, because it put me in a tricky spot. And it took me a while to see Azotic. K3. Ah, Lazo and Mo. Okay. Well, that might have been better because it's keeping only 3 consonants rather than 4. So there were options there, I just struggled to see them. My opponent plays Goo. Zoftig. That's quite nice through ZO. What did I do? Nothing there. I played Waging, I think, for 11, so fewer points, but maybe a slightly better rack leave, or strategically better in terms of not opening up opportunities for my opponent. Nice rack for my opponent. They have Exordia. Didn't spot it. Played Zai. This was my rack. And I played Flotal for 26. I think that's fine. Or did I play Phil for 24? Yeah, I played Phil for 24. Probably not a huge difference between them. Anyway, now a nice bingo by my opponent, Parados. And this is my rack, and Plotty and Plotty are both good. My opponent's rack, they play Lube. And now this is where I changed, and look, nothing over 20, and look at these rack leaves, all horrendous, all featuring U's and duplicate tiles. So I think the change, if not best, wasn't a bad error. My opponent's rack, they played Car. Now, I have Ranpikes, and that is the only 9-timer, so delighted to have spotted it. There are a ton of other bingos. Hopefully I would have seen one of those if I hadn't seen Ranpikes when I did. My opponent plays Vig. This was my rack, and I played Feud, but at M9. Ah, through here. But that's keeping double EO. I think 10 points for having 2 vowels rather than 3. Well, certainly 2 vowels is less vulnerable than 3 vowels to being in trouble. So I quite like Feud. My opponent's rack, did they have a bingo? No. They played Paley. And now, Metho, that would have been the play, keeping EO. I played Theme for slightly less and a worse rack leave. Now, nice bingo by my opponent of Hurlers. Burhel's also playable down from the B of Lube. And my rack, Twite. Gosh, I didn't see that. Keeping double O, but scoring a lot more than Wert. 7 more points. My opponent now does have the Q. And doesn't play QI at that point. Interesting. I have Tontina. I also had Neunter, which I didn't see, which played in column 3, making F, D, and My opponent does now play Chi. And now this is where I had to plan a 2-move out. And there was a 1-move out available. Vendus through the E. Gosh, that was remiss not spotting that. I played Debs at F1, keeping UN for 9 more points. Yeah, well, Vendus would have been better because my opponent could have now scored 26. They didn't. They phonied. And I played Un at B6 for 10. I could have got 4 more points by playing Uni parallel to Paley. So, a pretty exciting game. I think I felt like I was losing or was behind at the beginning, and then Ran Pikes totally transformed the game, and 9-timers usually do, which is why it's such a buzz when you get one. It gave me a good lead, and I was able to consolidate that lead with Tontina and run out a winner by a large margin. So, a great game. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I will see you next time.